Define adult concern step. The primary goal of the define adult concern step is to enter your concern or perspective into consideration. This step usually begins with the words my concern, since they're accustomed to having them dismissed or disregarded. The best response to defensive statements is not reciprocal defensiveness, but rather honesty. A good response to I don't have to talk to you would be you don't have to talk to me. A good response to you're not my boss would be I'm not your boss. And a good response to you can't make me talk would be I can't make you talk. Some reassurance that you're not using plan A might be helpful, as in I'm not telling you what to do, you're not in trouble, they're not. I'm not mad at you, you're not, and I'm just trying to understand you are. Notice I'm excluding statements like I just want what's best for you and I'm doing this plan A because I love you. Are you wondering if your child has sufficient language processing and verbal communication skills to participate in Plan B empathy? There's no question that the dialogues you've already read show what Plan B empathy looks like with kids who have these skills. In Chapter 9, you'll read about how to adjust things for kids who are having difficulty participating in Plan B empathy because of the lack of these skills or other reasons. The Define Adult Concern step. The primary goal of the Define Adult Concern step is to enter your concern or perspective into consideration. This step usually begins with the words my Plan B empathy. Concern is, or the thing is, you'll see many examples in the coming pages. This step is made difficult primarily by the fact that adults frequently haven't given much thought to their concerns about unsolved problems, often because they've been more focused on their solutions to those problems. But you shouldn't be thinking about solutions in the Define Adult Concern step. There's really no point in thinking of solutions until the concerns of both parties have been identified. Like parents, most general education teachers and school administrators haven't received any specialized training to help them understand and help kids with concerning behaviors. And those who have received training probably learned more about Plan A than Plan B empathy. There are a lot of different people to get on the same page. And there's a big dinosaur in the building, the existing school discipline program. Fortunately, many kids who exhibit concerning behaviors at home don't exhibit concerning behaviors at school. This pattern often reinforces the false belief that kids' concerning behaviors are completely under their control. Of course, if you read the first few chapters of this book, you know that that belief comes from obsolete lenses. Here are a few alternative explanations for the homeschool disparity. In the situational factor, as you've read, concerning behaviors occur when a kid is having difficulty meeting certain expectations. The expectations at home and school are often quite different. For example, because the school environment tends to be relatively structured and predictable, it can actually be more user-friendly for some kids than the home environment. And the embarrassment factor. Many kids with concerning behaviors would be absolutely mortified if their classmates and teachers witnessed those behaviors, so they put massive amounts of energy into holding it together at school. But since the potential for embarrassment decreases at home, and since the energy can be maintained 24/7, the kids unravel the minute they get home. Most of us are better behaved outside the home than we are inside, so kids with concerning behaviors aren't especially unusual in this regard. Of course, there are kids whose frustration at school blows right through the embarrassment factor. Unsolved problems at school, 205. And the chemical factor, teachers and classmates are often the primary beneficiaries of pharmacotherapy because kids with concerning behaviors may be medicated during school hours, but many medications wear off by late afternoon or early evening, just in time for the child to decompensate at home. The fact that concerning behaviors aren't occurring at school doesn't mean that school isn't contributing to concerning behaviors that occur elsewhere. Many things can happen at school to fuel episodes outside of school: being teased by other kids, feeling socially isolated or rejected, feeling frustrated and embarrassed over struggles on certain academic tasks, feeling misunderstood by the teacher. Homework, of course, often extends academic frustrations well beyond the end of the school day. So schools still have a role to play in helping kids with concerning behaviors, even if they don't see the kid at his worst. This chapter is primarily focused on the kids who do have challenging episodes at school. Luckily, everything you've read in this book so far is as applicable to schools and classrooms as it is to homes and families. But implementation at school isn't easy. Many, if not most, school discipline programs have a strong orientation toward Plan A. Intervention for students with concerning behaviors occurs all too often in the heat of the moment rather than proactively. Evaluations of teachers and schools are based primarily on the 206. The explosive child. Performance of their students on high-stakes tests with precious little emphasis on the social, emotional, and behavioral gains of the most vulnerable students. Budgets are extremely tight, time is short. In many instances, teachers justifiably feel that they lack the expertise and are not being provided with the kind of support they need to understand and help kids with concerning behaviors. While educators deal with lagging academic skills all the time, they are often unfamiliar with the lagging skills that make it difficult for a student to respond adaptively to problems and frustrations. This is especially interesting in view of the fact that the majority of concerning behaviors that occur at school can be linked to difficulties students are having with academics. And to make things still worse, misguided, ineffective zero-tolerance policies have driven many schools to use discipline rubric systems, which are usually comprised of a list, often a long one, of behaviors students shouldn't exhibit, and an algorithm of adult-imposed consequences attached to each behavior on the list. The research that has accumulated over the years is crystal clear on several points. Zero-tolerance policies have made things worse, not better. Standard school disciplinary practices generally aren't effective for the students to whom they are most frequently applied and aren't needed for the students to whom they are never applied. The school discipline program isn't unsolved problems at school 207. The reason well-behaved students behave well, they behave well because they can. We have little good to show for the millions of punishments, detentions, suspensions, expulsions that are meted out every year to the kids who are having difficulty handling the social, emotional, and behavioral expectations at school. And yet, most administrators' standard rationale for the continued use of consequences goes something like this. We have to set an example for all of our students. Even if suspension doesn't help Frankie, at least it sets an example for our other students. We need to let them know that we take this kind of behavior seriously at our school. Question: what message do we give the other students if we continue to apply interventions that aren't helping Frankie behave more adaptively? Answer: that we're actually not sure how to help our students with concerning behaviors. Question: what's the likelihood that the students who don't exhibit concerning behaviors will begin to exhibit concerning behaviors if we did not make an example of Frankie? Answer: as a general rule, slim to none. 208, the explosive child. Question: what message do we give Frankie if we continue to apply strategies that aren't working? Answer: we don't understand you and we can't help you. Question: under which circumstance do we have the best chance of helping Frankie solve the problems that are setting in motion his concerning behaviors, when he's in school or when he's suspended from school? Answer: when he's in school. Question: why do many schools continue to use interventions that aren't working for their students with concerning behaviors? Answer: they aren't sure what else to do. Question: what happens to students to whom these interventions are counterproductively applied for many years? Answer: they become more disenfranchised and alienated and fall farther outside the social fabric of the school. Question: isn't it the parent's job to make their child behave at school? Answer: helping a child deal more adaptively with frustration is everyone's job. Also, we can't escape the fact that the parents aren't there when the child is having difficulty meeting expectations at school. Unsolved problems at school. 209. Question: isn't it the job of special education to handle these children? Answer: actually, special education often has very little to offer many such students. Question: what usually happens to students with concerning behaviors when we apply a sink or swim mentality? Answer: they sink. Time for plan B: empathy. But solving problems collaboratively in a school is no small undertaking. Here are some of the necessary components. Awareness: students with concerning behaviors are being ill-served by traditional disciplinary practices in many schools. Some educators know this already and are eager to learn new ways of understanding and helping these kids. Other educators still don't know this and need to be enlightened. Emergency understanding and helping these students has to be a priority. However, since educators have so many different competing priorities, helping students with concerning behaviors often sits quite low on the list. But we're losing a lot of kids unnecessarily because their concerning behaviors are misunderstood and mishandled. Expertise. Many schools have been using the same discipline strategies for decades, even though it's quite clear that the frequent flyers, the students who are chronically in the office in detention being suspended, being paddled, and/or being restrained and secluded, aren't benefiting from those strategies. Equally clear is the fact that those strategies don't address the true difficulties, lagging skills, and unsolved problems of students with concerning behaviors. Some educators believe that the expertise necessary for understanding and helping behaviorally challenging students is well beyond their grasp. Not true. The expertise required is the same for everyone, identifying lagging skills and unsolved problems and using Plan B empathy. And Tality, it's time to stop blaming parents for concerning behaviors that occur at school. Blaming parents is a distracting, counterproductive dead end, and it makes it much harder for school staff to focus on the problems they could be busy solving. Parents of kids with concerning behaviors get much more blame than they deserve for their kids' difficulties, in the same way that parents of well-behaved kids get much more credit than they deserve for their kids' positive attributes. While it is true that there are many students who come from home situations that might not be considered ideal, it is also true that most of those students are well-behaved. Unsolved problems at school, 211. On time, classroom teachers often feel that they don't have time to help kids with concerning behaviors and that it is more efficient to simply let folks in the office handle things. The problem, of course, is that the folks in the office don't really know much about the unsolved problems that are causing the behaviors that are prompting teachers to send kids to the office. So, the folks in the office have little to offer when it comes to solving problems with students. The folks in the office may have a great deal to offer when it comes to providing coverage for classroom teachers who have problems to solve with their students. While Plan B, empathy, does take time, it also saves time. Time is almost always a major concern before teachers and administrators learn how to use Plan B, empathy, but those concerns fade once educators make it a priority to understand and help these kids and become skilled at Plan B, empathy. When do staff members in these schools do Plan B, empathy? Sometimes before school, sometimes after school, sometimes during lunch, sometimes during recess, sometimes during the teacher's prep time. I've yet to meet the administrator who isn't willing to arrange for coverage so that a classroom teacher can use proactive Plan B, empathy, with an individual student. Some schools have found it worthwhile to retool the entire schedule to create the time needed for helping kids who would otherwise become lost in the shuffle. 212, the explosive child. When assessment and referral mechanisms, it will be necessary to achieve a consensus on the lagging skills and unsolved problems of each student with concerning behaviors so that the factors underlying their difficulties are well understood and the problems that need to be solved are clear. The ALSUP should be the standard pre-referral triage instrument in every school. The information provided by the ALSUP should provide the foundation for writing functional behavior assessments, FBAs, individualized education plans, EPs, and behavior plans. It's crucial to go further than simply concluding that a student's concerning behaviors are working at getting them something they want. For example, attention and escaping and avoiding tasks and situations that are difficult, uncomfortable, tedious, or scary. A good functional assessment needs to explain why a student is going about getting, escaping, and avoiding in such a maladaptive fashion, lagging skills, and when that is occurring, unsolved problems, practice, feedback, and coaching. Once mechanisms for assessing lagging skills and unsolved problems are in place, schools are ready for the next step, becoming proficient at Plan B, empathy. For most people, this is a process that will require practice and ongoing feedback and coaching. This can take a variety of forms in different schools, and a variety of resources are available for support details, once again, at www.livesinthebalance.org. The aspects of Plan B, empathy, that are challenging for parents tend to be the same for educators, drilling for information in the empathy step, articulating why it's important that an expectation be met in the define adult concerns step, collaborating on solutions that are realistic and mutually satisfactory, ongoing communication because proactive Plan B, empathy, is far preferable to emergency Plan B, empathy, advanced preparation, and good communication among adults are essential. The only models for treatment that don't require good communication are the ineffective ones. To help out, another instrument, the problem-solving plan, can be found at www.livesinthebalance.org as well. It was designed to help adults keep track of the high-priority unsolved problems that are currently being addressed with an individual student, to specify who's taking primary responsibility for solving each problem with the student, and to track the progression of problem-solving efforts through the steps of Plan B, empathy. In schools, as well as in homes, there's a tendency to work on the hot problem that precipitated a concerning behavior on a particular day. But since unsolved problems wax and wane, the hot unsolved problem that was addressed one day or week, but not seen through to a final resolution, is often replaced the next day or week by a different hot unsolved problem. However, the first unsolved problem hasn't gone away, it's just gone into hibernation, since it's 214, the explosive child. Still unsolved, it keeps coming back. The problem-solving plan is designed to prevent that from happening by helping adults track unsolved problems over time until they're durably solved. The need for ongoing monitoring means that the adults who are working with a given child will have to reconvene periodically to assess progress and revisit unsolved problems. Perseverance. There is no quick fix. You're in this for the long haul. Transforming school discipline is a project. It doesn't happen overnight, but it needs to happen. Naturally, there's much more that could be said about each of these components. That's why I wrote Lost at School, which was published in 2008 and revised in 2020. This might be a good time to point out that Plan B empathy isn't limited to adult-child problem solving. The ingredients of Plan B empathy are equally applicable to unsolved problems between two kids as well as to those that affect an entire group of kids. And Plan B empathy has significant ramifications for adult problem solving as well. For the remainder of this chapter, let's see what Plan B empathy would look like as applied to these different types of problem solving in a school setting. We'll start with Plan B empathy, involving a teacher and student move on unsolved problems at School 215, to Plan B empathy between groups of students and finish with parents and teachers. Student-teacher problem solving. As you'll see, proactive Plan B empathy doesn't look much different when the adult is a teacher rather than a parent. The ingredients are exactly the same, though the topics may differ. Here's an example between a teacher and a 13-year-old. Teacher, class, please get to work on your social studies projects. Ricky, I'm not doing it. Teacher, well, then your grade will reflect both your attitude and your lack of effort. Ricky, I don't give a damn about my grades. I can't do this crap. Teacher, your mouth just bought you a detention, young man, and I don't want students in my classroom who don't do their work. Anything else you'd like to say? Ricky, yeah, this class sucks. Teacher, nor do I need to listen to this. You need to go to the assistant principal's office now. Oops. That was Plan A, wasn't it? Tricky author. Let's consider our other options. Since this problem 216, the explosive child, was being handled emergently, that would be Emergency Plan C or Emergency Plan B empathy. Here's what Emergency Plan C would look like. Teacher, class, please get to work on your social studies projects. Ricky, I'm not doing it. Teacher, you're not doing it. Ricky, forget it. I can't do this. Just leave me alone. Damn. Teacher, Ricky, you don't have to do it. But hang on for just a second. Let me get everyone else going, and then you and I can figure out what's the matter and see what we can do about it. And here's what the same problem would look like if it were handled with Emergency Plan B, empathy. Teacher, class, please get to work on your social studies projects. Ricky, I'm not doing it. Teacher, tell me what's going on, bud. Ricky, forget it. I can't do this. Just leave me alone. Damn. Teacher, Ricky, tell me what's going on. Ricky, you know I have trouble with the spelling. Teacher, yes, I do know that. That's why I don't grade you for the spelling. T, unsolved problems at School 217. Ricky, but it still bugs me. Teacher, let's see if we can find a way for you to do the important part of the assignment, letting me know what you thought of the story you just heard, which is something you're very good at without you getting frustrated about the spelling part. Ricky, how? Teacher, well, maybe Darren would help you with any words you don't know how to spell. Ricky, no way. Teacher, how come? Ricky, he's going to rag on me about needing his help. Teacher, Is there anyone who could help you who wouldn't give you a hard time about it? Ricky, Dewan. Teacher Dewan? That could work? You'd feel more comfortable with him? Ricky, yeah, he's smart. Teacher, you're smart too. You just have some trouble with spelling. Of course, it would be far better to handle this problem proactively, especially since this isn't the first time it's occurred. In other words, Ricky's spelling problem is predictable. So rather than dealing with the spelling problem emergently every day, which is very time-consuming, the teacher would want to schedule a 218. The explosive child. Time to solve the problem with Ricky using proactive Plan B, empathy, preferably before it erupts again in the middle of another lesson. By the way, the ingredients of Plan B empathy can be applied to every student in the class, each of whom has problems that need to be solved. If every student is working on something, then the student with concerning behaviors doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. Student, and group problem solving. Plan B empathy can also be applied to unsolved problems that may arise between two students. In such instances, the teacher's role is Plan B empathy facilitator. Here's an example from Lost at School. Mr. Bartlett, Hank, as you know, in our classroom, when something is bothering somebody, we try to talk about it. As I mentioned to you yesterday, I thought it might be a good idea for me and you and Laura to talk together about the project you guys are supposed to be doing together. Hank, okay. Mr. Bartlett, she has some concerns about what it's going to be like doing the project with you. It sounds like you guys worked on a project together last year, yes? Hank, yep. Mr. Bartlett, I don't know if you knew this, but Laura unsolved probiums at school. 219 came away from that project feeling like you weren't very receptive to her ideas and feeling like she did most of the work. So she wasn't too sure she wanted to do this project with you. Hank, she doesn't have to do the project with me. I can find another partner. Mr. Bartlett, yes, she was thinking the same thing, but I was hoping we could find a way for you guys to work well together. What do you think of Laura's concern? Hank, I don't know, that was a long time ago. Mr. Bartlett, do you remember how you guys figured out what to do on last year's project? Hank, no. Mr. Bartlett, do you remember Laura doing most of the work? Hank, sort of. But that's because she didn't like the way I was doing it, so she decided to do it herself. Laura, that is so not true. I did most of the work because you wouldn't do anything, and you wouldn't listen to any of my ideas. Hank, well, that's not how I remember it. Mr. Bartlett, it sounds like you both have different recollections about what happened last year and why it didn't go so well, so maybe we shouldn't concentrate so much on what happened last year. I don't know if you would ever agree on that. Maybe we should focus on the concerns that are getting in the way of your working together this year. Laura, you're 220, the explosive child. Concern is that Hank won't listen to any of your ideas, and you're both concerned about the possibility that Laura will do all the work. I wonder if there's a way for you guys to make sure that you have equal input into the design of the project without having Laura do all the work in the end. Do you guys have any ideas? Laura, this is so pointless. He won't listen to my ideas. Mr. Bartlett, well, I know that's what you feel happened last year, but I can't do anything about last year. We're trying to focus on this year and on coming up with a solution so that you and Hank have equal input and work equally hard. Laura, can you sit with us while we're figuring out what to do? Then you'll see what I mean. Hank, then you'll see what I mean. Mr. Bartlett, so Laura, you're saying that maybe if I sit in on your discussions, I might be able to help. You guys have a more equal exchange of ideas? Laura, that's not really what I meant. Mr. Bartlett, I know, but I'm thinking that it might not be a bad way to ensure the equal exchange of ideas. What do you think? Hank, I think we can work together. Laura, fine. Sit in on our discussion and help us have equal input. Mr. Bartlett, only if that works for you guys. Laura, it only works for me if I have to work with him. Mr. Bartlett, I'm not saying you have to work with him. I'm saying Elle'd like you to give it a shot so the other kids unsolve problems at school. 221. Don't have to break up their pairs. We can entertain other options if that solution doesn't work for you. Laura, what other solutions? Mr. Bartlett, I don't know, whatever we come up with. Can you guys think of any others? Hank, we could do the project by ourselves, alone. She could do one and I could do one. Mr. Bartlett, well, that would probably work for you guys, but it wouldn't work for me. One of the goals of this project was for kids to learn to work together. I think it's an important skill. Laura, why don't we try to work together, with you helping us, and if that doesn't work, we can do our own projects. Mr. Bartlett, Hank, does that solution work for you? Hank, sure, whatever. Mr. Bartlett, I need to think about whether it works for me. You guys will try hard to work together with me helping you? Laura, yes. Hank, yes. Mr. Bartlett, okay, let's go with it. We're working on the project again tomorrow. I'll sit in on your discussion with each other and see if I can help make sure the exchange of ideas is equal and the workload is equal. Let's see how it goes. While some problems are best addressed by using Plan B, empathy with individual students or pairs of students, 222, the explosive child. Other problems, especially those that affect the group as a whole, are best addressed by using Plan B, empathy with the entire classroom community. Group discussions are a common occurrence in many classrooms, but mostly on topics that have an academic orientation. But when the 3 steps of Plan B, empathy, are added to a group discussion, and when such discussions are about non-academic problems such as bullying, teasing, and general classroom conduct, then community members learn to listen to and take into account one another's concerns and recognize that there are no right answers, only solutions that are mutually satisfactory. Group problem solving is hard, but no harder and messier than having problems that never get solved or having problems that go underground because there is no mechanism for solving them. Yet again, the ingredients are the same, and the classroom teacher is the facilitator. The first goal is to achieve the clearest possible understanding of the concerns of each group member with regard to a given problem. Once the concerns have been well clarified, the group moves on to the next challenge, finding a solution that will address those concerns. The criteria for a good solution remain the same. It must be realistic and mutually satisfactory. When using Plan B empathy with a group, the teacher helps the group decide what problems to tackle first, keeps the group focused, and serious group members will eventually take on these responsibilities as well, and ensures that the exploration of concerns and solve unsolved problems at school. 223. Cheon's is exhaustive. The teacher's stance in helping the group sort through concerns and solutions is generally neutral. There are no good or bad concerns, no such thing as competing concerns, only concerns that need to be addressed. Likewise, there are no right or wrong solutions, only ones that are realistic or not, and mutually satisfactory or not. There's an excellent video of full class Plan B empathy on the Lives in the Balance website. Parent-teacher problem solving. Parents of kids with concerning behaviors and school personnel often have difficulty working together for the same reasons that kids and adults do. The tendency to blame one party or another, the failure to achieve a consensus on the true nature of a kid's difficulties, lag Jing's skills, and the true events, unsolved problems precipitating his explosions, the failure to identify the concerns of the respective parties, and the attempt of one party to impose its will on another. As Sarah Lawrence Lightfoot writes in her insightful book, The Essential Conversation, what parents and teachers can learn from each other, great potential exists for productive collaboration between parents and teachers. When parents and teachers are able to exchange highly specific information about a child's lagging skills and unsolved problems, they start trusting each other. Parents become convinced that they are being heard and that the teacher sees, knows, and cares about their 224 the explosive child. Educators become convinced that the parents are eager for information, eager to collaborate, and eager to help in any way possible. Both parties need to be part of the process of working toward a mutually satisfactory action plan. You're on the same team. Here's what proactive Plan B empathy looks like between parents and teachers. Once again, it uses the same ingredients, information gathering and understanding, entering the concerns of both parties into consideration, and brainstorming solutions that are realistic and mutually satisfactory. Teacher, I understand that homework has been very difficult lately. Mother, homework has been very difficult for a very long time. You're the first teacher Ricky's had who's expressed any interest in what we go through with homework. We spend several hours fighting over homework every weeknight and every weekend. Teacher, I'm sorry about that, but let's see if we can figure out what's so hard about homework and then come up with a plan so it's not so terrible anymore. Mother, you can't imagine how nice that would be. Teacher, can you tell me the parts of homework that have been difficult for you and Ricky? Or is it all hard? You don't mind if I write these down, do you? Mother, not at all. He's a very slow writer. So he gets frustrated that homework takes as long as it does. And he seems to have trouble thinking of a lot of the unsolved problems at School 225. Details you're asking for. And he's always struggled with spelling. Last year's teacher told us not to worry about the spelling, but Ricky doesn't seem to be able to do that, so I don't know whether to forget about it or work on it. I wouldn't know how to work on it anyway, and I end up doing a lot of the writing for him. Teacher, yes, I've noticed the slow writing part and the difficulty he has coming up with details and his troubles with spelling. How about math? Mother, he breezes right through it. Very little writing, very little spelling, and not the kind of details he has trouble with. Teacher, well then, let's take our problems one at a time. Of course, I've only had Ricky in my class for about 4 weeks now, so I can't say I have a perfect handle on his difficulties or what we should do about them. And I have begun working with Ricky on these problems myself, so I am in the midst of trying to gather some information from him too. But I'm not one for having kids spend 2 hours on homework every night, and I'm certainly not one for having homework cause problems between kids and their parents. Of course, I'm not always aware that those problems exist, so I appreciate your honesty. Mother, I'm not shy about letting people know what's going on with Ricky. I just wish we were seeing more progress on the problems he's having. Teacher, the thing is, we're going to need to get 226, the explosive child, Ricky involved in the homework discussion too. Even if you and I come up with brilliant solutions, they won't be so brilliant if he's not on board with them. So maybe we should use this discussion to make sure we have a clear sense of the problems we need to get solved. One problem is the amount of time homework is consuming. Yes, Mother, yes, teacher, but it sounds like a lot of that time is spent being frustrated over what to work on and how you can help. So that's something we'll need to get solved too. Mother, absolutely. Teacher, I'm not convinced that Ricky can't get better at spelling, so I'm disinclined to tell you that we should drop it altogether. Plus, as you said, Ricky doesn't seem able to drop it. So spelling is an unsolved problem, and slow writing is an unsolved problem. and fleshing out the details is an unsolved problem. And I know you're doing a lot of the writing for him, but we don't want him getting the idea that he doesn't need to do any of the writing. Mother, aren't you overwhelmed by all this? Teacher, no, I actually find that sorting through unsolved problems helps me be less overwhelmed. At least I know what needs to be addressed. Mother, I see what you mean. Teacher, any other unsolved problems related to homework? Mother, well, he has hockey practice 2 nights A. Unsolved problems at school 227. Weeks, so sometimes he's really tired when it's time for homework. Those are our really tough nights. Teacher, I can imagine so. We have some work to do, don't we? Mother, it appears so. Teacher, here's what I'm thinking. If it's okay with you, why don't we meet again within the next week, but next time let's include Ricky in the meeting. Then we can start talking about how these problems can be solved one at a time. What's the solution to the writing problem? The spelling problem? The details problem? The hockey practice problem? That's for Ricky, his mom, and his teacher to figure out. There are dozens of possibilities. There's no such thing as a right or wrong solution, only solutions that are realistic and mutually satisfactory. Q&A. Question, I'm a teacher, and I'm a little worried about having different sets of expectations for different kids. If I let one kid get away with something, won't my other students try to get away with it as well? Answer, Plan B empathy isn't about letting students get away with something. Teachers have different expectations for different students already. That's what initiatives like differentiated instruction, personalized learning, 228 The Explosive Child, and universal design are all about, not to mention special education laws. Question, does Plan B empathy undermine a teacher's authority with the other kids in the class? Answer, no, it doesn't. The other kids are watching closely. If a teacher intervenes in a way that solves the problems that are causing concerning behaviors, they have done nothing to undermine their authority with the other kids. Question, is it really fair to expect teachers who are not trained as mental health professionals to solve all these problems with their students? Answer, a mental health degree is not a prerequisite for solving problems collaboratively. Most mental health professionals don't have training in solving problems collaboratively either. Question, one was using Plan B empathy with a student in my class and things seemed to be going well for a few weeks but then deteriorated again. What happened? Answer, it could be that the solution you and the student agreed on wasn't T, as realistic and mutually satisfactory as it originally seemed. That's not a sign that you should revert back to Plan A. It's a sign that you need to go back to Plan B empathy to figure out why the solution didn't work as well as anticipated and come up with a revised solution. Unsolved problems at school 229. Question, are there some students who are so volatile and unstable that academics should be de-emphasized until things are calmer? Answer, yes. Some kids simply aren't available for academic learning until factors that are impeding their learning, and perhaps stability, have been addressed. Plunging forward with expectations a student clearly can't meet is usually an exercise in futility and often results in detentions, suspensions, expulsions, pad dealing, restraints, and seclusions. Question, what if Plan B empathy isn't working? What then? Answer, this is a more interesting question than it might seem, and the answer depends on your definition of the word working. For many people, working refers only to the ultimate destination, the point at which a problem is finally durably solved. But there are many ways in which Plan B empathy is working before the ultimate destination is reached. Plan B empathy is working if adults are viewing a kid's difficulties more accurately and more compassionately. It's working if adults are effectively gathering information about a kid's concerns on a given problem and finally achieving an understanding of what's been getting in the kid's way. It's working if the kid is able to listen to adult concerns and take them into account. Plan B empathy is working if the kid is no longer viewing adults as the enemy. It's working if the kid is participating in discussions about how a given problem can be solved in a way that addresses 230 The Explosive Child. The concerns of both parties. Plan B empathy is even working if it's not going so well, but the kid and adults haven't broken off discussions and are resolved to keep trying. Yes, the ultimate definition of working is that a problem is solved and is no longer causing concerning behaviors. But sometimes there are a lot of things that are working before that happens. Question, but are there some students who need more than what can be provided in a general education setting, even if people are using Plan B empathy? Answer, yes, there are. But wouldn't it be interesting to see how many students still needed more than what could be provided in general education settings if more general education settings were using Plan B empathy? That question aside, there are some kids who need a larger dose of Plan B empathy. Then can be provided in schools and outpatient settings, kids who continue to behave in an unsafe manner at home, at school, and or in the community. Many start a downward spiral early, become increasingly alienated, begin exhibiting more serious forms of concerning behavior, and begin to hang out with other children who have come down a similar path. After all else has been tried, therapy, medication, perhaps even alternative day school placements, what many of these kids ultimately need is a change of environment, a new start, a way to begin working on a new identity. Once alienation and deviance become unsolved problems at School 231, a kid's identity, things are a lot harder to turn around. Fortunately, there are some outstanding therapeutic day schools and residential facilities in the United States that do an exceptional job of working with such kids. Chapter 12, Better. You've made it to the last chapter, and you've covered a lot of ground on the way. The first goal was to help you view your child more accurately. Beginning with your new lenses, kids do well if they can. You now know that it's far more important to focus on your child's unsolved problems than on the concerning behaviors that are being caused by those problems. We dispensed with a lot of the things that are commonly said about concerning behaviors. They are intentional, goal-oriented, and purposeful. About kids who exhibit concerning behaviors, they're unmotivated, attention-seeking, manipulative, coercive, button-pushing, and about the parents of these kids. They're passive, permissive, and inconsistent disciplinarians. You learn 234, the explosive child, why traditional discipline, with its heavy emphasis on rewarding and punishing, may not have improved your situation. We concluded that the sheer force of your will, which may have served you well in other aspects of your life, is not going to be a central ingredient in solving problems with your child. We also decided that you're not going to sacrifice your relationship with your child just because she's having difficulty meeting certain expectations. In fact, your relationship with her is going to play a major role in making things better. We examined the various lagging skills that can make it difficult for your child to respond adaptively to problems and frustrations. We identified the specific expectations your child is having difficulty meeting and prioritized those unsolved problems. You learned how to solve problems collaboratively and proactively, and you read about the different ways in which Plan B empathy can go awry and how to get things back on track. My hope is that things are now better in your household. If so, there are a lot of factors that could be at work. Things might be better because you understand your child's difficulties better than you did before. Things might be better because you've removed some low-priority expectations from the equation Plan C. Maybe things are better because you're relying far less on Plan A and adult-imposed consequences. And things might be better because you and your problem-solving partner have collaboratively and proactively solved a bunch of the problems that were better. 235. Setting in motion concerning behaviors. Along the way, communication has also improved, and you should be feeling like your relationship with your child is moving in the right direction. Sometimes it's hard to notice that things are getting better. Some adults have a preordained notion of what life is going to be like when things are finally better and are disappointed to find that better isn't perfect. Your child still has her moments. She's still pretty rigid and inflexible. She can still be irritable or anxious sometimes. Making friends is still hard for her. Some parents wish it weren't so hard to make things better or that it could be accomplished at a faster pace. How hard it is and how quickly progress is achieved differ for every kid and family. And the definition of better is different for every kid and family too. For what it's worth, here's my definition of better. It's better, and better begets better. If you've been thinking, shouldn't all children be raised this way? The answer is yes, of course. You see, while the model described in this book has its roots in the treatment of kids with concerning behaviors, those kids aren't the only ones who could benefit from having their concerns identified and validated, taking another person's concerns into account, participating in the process of generating and considering alternative solutions to problems, working toward mutually satisfactory solutions, and resolving disputes and disagreements without conflict. All kids benefit, and so do all adults. 236, The Explosive Child. And if you're the type of person who likes to read the entire book before putting what you've read into action, your time has come. Sandra and Debbie were on the phone again. It had been a week since Frankie came home from the inpatient unit. "How's Frankie doing?" asked Debbie. "Well, he's going to be in the partial hospitalization program in Amberville for a few more weeks," said Sandra. "They're trying to help me get things sorted out with the folks at school, see if there's some way to get Frankie out of that program he hates. I don't know how that's going to pan out, but I feel like people are listening to me and helping me instead of just telling me what to do. But the door to his room isn't closed all the time, and he participated in a Plan B empathy conversation yesterday right here in our apartment about playing his music too loud with Matt helping out. Wow, that's progress, said Debbie. Oh, we have a long way to go, said Sandra. I have a long way to go. I didn't know how to talk to my own kid. I didn't know how to solve problems with him. I was trying, but I didn't know how. I was getting so worked up about how things were going at school, especially, that I let it get in the way. I was leaving out the most important person, Frankie. I'm seeing him in a very different way now. I think that may be the most important part. I feel like I have a piece of my son back better. 237. I feel the same way about Jennifer, said Debbie. I haven't heard about Jennifer in the past few weeks, said Sandra. I'm sorry. I think you've been a little busy, said Debbie. Jennifer's talking. More with me than with Kevin, though he's trying hard. It's not easy for him to resist the temptation to rush through the empathy step and head straight for solutions. But she corrects him when he does it. She tells him how to do plan B. Empathy? Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. But we're finding out what's going on in that head of hers. She sure is rigid about some things, but we're getting some problems solved. That's wonderful. And she's letting me tuck her into bed at night again. She even let me hug her the other day without getting all pissed off about it. No, she did. Well, I gave her advance warning that a hug was coming. She also screamed at me a few minutes later because I had rearranged something in her room. So we have a lot more problems to solve. Debbie paused. Do you think our lives will ever be normal? Sandra laughed. My life hasn't been normal since the day I came into this world. I stopped shooting for normal a long time ago. Abnormal is my normal. Debbie pondered this. So normal isn't even the goal. I know it sounds corny, but I'm just concentrating on doing what I can to make tomorrow slightly better than today for me and my kid. That's what I've always done. I don't know what's around the bend, but I'm starting to feel like I know how I'll handle it, whatever it is, when I get there. And it's a lot easier when your kid is your partner instead of your enemy. Easier, for sure. Easy, no way. As you'd imagine, I receive a lot of email from parents and other caregivers. Many ask for help and guidance, others are seeking resources, and quite a few just want to let me know how things are going with their child. The following email, which I received from a father about 12 years ago, was especially memorable. This evening, after my 12-year-old daughter stayed up late to finish a project for school, I couldn't help but reflect on how much she has changed in the past 20 months. Today, she is a well-balanced student-athlete with a great circle of friends. She demonstrates patience and good communication skills. 20 months ago, she was certainly a behaviorally challenging child. We were quite certain that the only path to resolution was inpatient treatment. While we made some small advances in our understanding of her issues with local psychologists, we made little, if any, steps toward improvement. Then better. 239. We read The Explosive Child. The issues and solutions became understandable and actionable. Without any professional help, we implemented the solutions in the book, and over time the results have been amazing. I am writing to express my gratitude for providing the insights to restore normalcy in our lives. My child is back on the path to a productive and successful life. I have also learned a great deal about myself and human interaction in the process. I consider this the greatest accomplishment of my life. Kids do well if they can, so do parents. And if things aren't going well for you and your child, now you know what to do.